smash the like button, and subscribe. Do you support Trump?
Yeah, it's King Blogger.
Okay. If the election were held today, Harris versus Trump, who would you rather vote for?
Definitely Trump. Harris is a asshat. She can't even talk.
Okay. What makes you think that?
That coconut tree bullshit. She doesn't have any stance. Doesn't know what she would do differently than Joe Biden. Disaster borders are disaster peace deal. She's trash.
Okay. So she was in border czar, and then what peace deal do you disagree with?
What are you using to say she was not borders are?
There was nothing from the administration that indicated she was this border czar. The
So,
authority that
so
she was granted at the border was to raise private funds for Central American countries to reduce the likelihood of people coming here based upon economic insecurity. So any other authority that you'd be granting to her, I'd love to see any source that justifies that she was granted that authority by the president.
so she failed.
No, she actually succeeded with respect to that goal. She raised over $5 billion in private funds for Central American countries to reduce the likelihood of people coming here based upon economic insecurity. And from those particular countries, right, it actually reduced the likelihood of people coming here based upon economic insecurity.
How were you basing that it reduced the likelihood of them coming here? Where are you getting that from?
Yeah, I mean, that's been reported on by U.S. intelligence and government data. I can send you a source on that if you'd like.
So you trust U.S. intelligence?
Yeah.
Okay. So what do you want to debate about? Do you have some policies of Trump's that you don't like?
Of course, I dislike the big beautiful bill. It cuts over 10 million people off their access to health insurance through Medicaid, over 2.5 million people on average every single month off their access to food stamps, over 420,000 children off their access to free school lunch and breakfast, and most of the tax cuts go to the rich and wealthy, and it adds $3.4 trillion to the debt. Kamala Harris would have maintained all the tax cuts applicable under the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, applicable to income earners under $400,000 a year, and would have expanded the tax cuts for middle-class individuals, for expanding the child tax credit to $6,000 for the first year of a child's life, $3,600 through them being 5 years old, $3,000 through them being 18, a $25,000 tax credit for first-time homebuyers for new homes, a $2,000 cap on pharmaceuticals out of pocket, $35 cap per month in terms of insulin, right? So policies, those are exact policies she would have supported that benefited the working class, whereas Donald Trump's tax policies actually disproportionately help the rich and wealthy at the expense of the working class people, because his tariff policy disproportionately raises taxes on lower and middle income individuals.
Why didn't they do that
Proportionally.
while they were in office?
What's up?
Why didn't they do that when they were in office?
Because they voted on the tax policy in 2025, and they actually did implement it through COVID emergency policy in 2021 through the American Rescue Plan, and the expansion in the child tax credit actually reduced childhood poverty by 45% when implemented.
Are you pretending that Congress couldn't pass laws in 2021, 2022, 2023, or 2024?
No, they can pass laws then, but not specifically in terms of the overall budget, because I'm talking about the end of when the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act was. Right, end of the particular policies and the tax proposals.
The legislation that they wanted to pass while they were in office?
Well, because you can't get everything passed in Congress that you want to get passed, because you need to get 60 plus votes.
What makes you think that they would have got it passed if you had elected them again?
Because I think that they're more willing to work with the other side in terms of bipartisan legislation than what we see under the Trump administration.
So I agree with you. I would say Trump is more effective too, because he was able to pass his policies.
Trump is less effective. I'm saying that he'd be less likely to engage in bipartisan.
Hold on. You said that they weren't capable of doing it while they were in office. They had 4 years. Trump passed a big beautiful bill in his first year.
Let me give you an example.
So
Trump wasn't able to do everything that he wanted to do. Because I just wanted to clarify this one thing.
But you said everything you wanted to. So can I speak now?
Yeah, but can I just clarify one thing, and I'll let you speak completely?
I mean, I was speaking. Can you wait?
Go ahead. I'll wait.
Okay, so if he was able to pass all of his legislation within 6 months, why is it that they couldn't do it in 4 years? That would be saying that they're less effective.
Trump hasn't passed everything he wants in 6 months, and I think it's also important to acknowledge that everything that he ran on for his second administration acknowledges that he couldn't do everything in his first administration. So Trump's already had 4 years as president of the United States. Kamala Harris wasn't president of the United States. So claiming they had 4 years prior to get everything done, meaning that whatever they say they're going to try to get done next isn't something they're actually going to get done, isn't a good argument, because we clearly see that that same thing would then be applicable to Trump, because Trump already had 4 years.
So you're saying that she was ineffective as president of the Senate.
No, she had the most tie-breaking votes in vice president's history. I'm just saying that they didn't
But
get
she
done
wasn't able to get
everything.
the things that she
Wait,
wanted to do done.
you're not paying attention to what I'm saying. I'm saying that they didn't get done every single thing that they want to get done as a person, but they got done a lot. So a historic level of legislation. For example, the bipartisan infrastructure bill, the Inflation Reduction Act, the Chips and Science Act, the PACT Act, the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act, the Violence Against Women Act. Right, all of these things are things that have been expanded under the Biden Harris administration. That is an unprecedented level of legislation. Now, that is good. Now, does that mean that they've gotten every single thing that they want? No, it doesn't mean they've got every single thing that they want. But it does mean that they got a historic level of legislation.
Sure, sure. Why were women's reproductive rights shrunk under the Biden-Harris administration?
Because the Trump administration put people in the Supreme Court with the explicit reason of overturning Roe versus Wade.
Does the Supreme Court create law?
They interpret the law.
They interpret the law, right? And so if you had a party leader like Joe Biden and Kamala Harris who were in charge for multitudes of years, not even including the 60 years they had before that, why didn't they do anything to protect women's rights? Like I don't understand.
So they want to, in order to be able to protect it to a greater extent, they'd have to codify Roe versus Wade into the law, which relies
Didn't they
upon
do
the
it?
legislative branch, which means they need 60 votes in order to get that done. But they didn't have any Republicans, so we just need to get more pro-choice individuals in the context of the Senate in order to be able to ensure that that one would get passed. So that's the reason. And then in terms
So
of more Supreme Court justices, they actually blocked Obama's nomination near the end of his administration because they claimed that he was a lame duck president. And then with even closer to the election time near 2021 or 2020, they actually, with less time, nominated a Supreme Court justice. So they violated that precedence. So that's
Parker,
an
you're
important thing to
usually
take into
a pretty
consideration.
reasonable guy. So you would agree that they're being less effective by making these excuses, correct?
Who's being less effective?
The Democratic Party, to be specific.
Oh, these aren't excuses. These are the explanations for why. Will these explanations always be the most convincing to people? No, but they are the true explanations. Right? Like, you can't just
You
act
you
like,
think what you just said explains why in 50 years Democrats never codified Roe v. Wade?
yeah, they didn't have the votes in Congress. Yeah, that's literally the
For
reason.
50 years
Yes.
they didn't have the votes in Congress,
Yeah, and
and
obviously
you
these are
believe
you're
that
not dealing
that
with the same
party
Democrats
is
that you were
effective.
50 years ago. You're not dealing with the same Democrats you were 30 years ago. So, Candace, think of the galaxy. So you're obviously dealing with different Democrats. I'm obviously not going to hold the Democrats today the same standard I would individuals in the past as
Oh,
well.
come on, we gotta admit some shortcomings, bro. That's crazy. That's ridiculous. 50 years, dude. Come on.
Yeah, I would love to be able to get more people right into positions of power in Congress to be able to ensure that we have policies specifically that will address this. Why is that
Had
something that we can't
Congress
acknowledge?
20 times. What do you mean?
I'm confused what your point is.
Had Congress 20 times and they didn't codify Roe v. Wade.
Because
It's almost like
I
they're
would say
playing you. They're
it would be an
saying that they're
important
gonna
thing for a
protect things.
baseline, but it wasn't challenged prior. Trump is the one that's challenged this as of recent. So
So with the Supreme Court, you can't be effective in president or vice president or as president of the Senate or in Congress or in the judiciary. I mean, where are Democrats being effective is what I'm trying to figure out.
I actually explained exactly how Democrats are effective, and you chose to ignore all of that because that context wasn't helpful to your framing
No,
of
you
Democrats as
explained a
like the
bunch of
devil.
bipartisan stuff. You
Yeah,
you
I mean,
explained a bunch of bipartisan
you're just
stuff.
trying to frame Democrats as devil and not actually trying to engage with what I brought up.
I just think that
Like
they're
I
aligned. Like
I
they
explained it to you, and you purposefully decided to ignore the context that I described to you. Why did you choose to
selling
do that?
dreams. They're selling dreams. They tell you they're gonna do something, and then they say, "Oh, we can't
I
do it."
gave you the
I don't see
actual
Trump doing that.
explanations for why it couldn't happen. Maybe you should stop voting for Republicans that pull back the legislation that the Democrats put in the first place. Plus, literally said that Democrats didn't do anything and that they specifically don't have any policies. And
You're gonna blame
I
me?
explained to you that they have literally unprecedented levels of legislation. The Biden administration passed more legislation bipartisanly than what we've seen under the Trump administration. Trump
You're
acts
gonna
by
blame
executive
me?
order, not by trying to work with people in Congress.
So I was looking this straight. You're gonna blame me for? I'm not even 50 years old, by the way. I'm nowhere near 50 years old. You're gonna blame me for Democrats not getting shit done, bro? That's what you're gonna
I
do.
don't think that's what I blamed you for. I
Me
think you're
voting for
strawmanning me right now.
Republicans is fucking stopping Democrats from getting shit done for the last 60
Well, I mean,
years.
when you vote in Republicans, it does prevent Democrats from being able to pass this legislation. Yes, of course.
You don't think at all
If,
that
if
they're
you're if
just
you're if
fucking
you're
playing you.
pro-choice, if you're pro-choice, and you
I
vote
have some
against the
questions.
people who are advocating for pro-choice legislation, yeah, that's going to hinder our ability to create pro-choice legislation. I don't think that's very complicated, is it?
I have some questions. Where is the high speed railway that California's been
This is a
working
nice
on since
pivot.
2006? I'm
Is,
just
is this your
curious.
is this your best pivot you could possibly
Where
think
is
of?
it?
You realize that like you couldn't actually address what I said meaningfully in relation
What
to abortion
what you
here, so you
said?
had to
What you
completely
said?
pivot to high-speed rail? Like, are you
What you
serious?
said was a
Wait,
bunch
wait.
of
Can you
bipartisan
admit
stuff that we always do: infrastructure,
Wait, you
chips,
you
and science.
purposefully you're purposefully ignoring any of
We
the relevant
fund.
context to try
It
to make
wasn't
me seem
relevant.
like a horrible person for no
It
reason.
wasn't relevant because it
What
wasn't
benefit do
relevant.
you get by
You didn't.
purposefully misrepresenting my position?
Your position doesn't make any sense. So what I'm
It
doing is just
makes sense.
moving
So then
on
why don't you
because
ask for clarification, sir?
you believe that Joe Biden can do stuff for Taiwan. They can make the Chips and Science Act. We can do research and
That
development,
does
which we
stuff
do
mostly for
all
the
of the time.
US, building up our
Excuse
supply
me,
and domestic
excuse me,
production
excuse
of
me.
chips in this country.
Are you just gonna keep interrupting?
Are you going to even engage with my arguments? You've chose to not engage with
You're
my
not making
arguments.
an argument.
I did
You're
make an
saying
argument.
you're steamrolling
Sir,
a bunch
you
of
I
bullshit that
didn't
was
at
not
all. I
done by
was actually letting
Democrats.
you
It was done
speak. I
bipartisan.
was
It
letting you
was done
speak, but I
bipartisan.
realize now that you're not productively engaging in conversation, so it seemingly doesn't really matter.
So we're just gonna talk over each other? Is that the plan?
I mean, yeah, if you're not going to engage in the conversation with directly in terms of what I'm saying, and you're going to purposefully misrepresent what I'm saying, yeah, I'm going to control the conversation to a greater extent, of course. I mean, if you want to
So you
prove to
don't want
me
to have the
that you can have a
conversation.
productive conversation, you can take into consideration what I'm saying, well, then I won't do that. But if you can prove to me that, yeah, I'm going to take more control of the conversation because clearly that will make the conversation more productive for the audience because it's clearly not productive with you.
You want to go back to talking to the 17-year-olds that are just coming up here making noises, or I mean, what are you trying to do?
No, no, I want to talk to people who actually can justify their standpoints in terms of why they support Trump. You seemingly can't do that.
So Trump, in 2017, was able to pass the Tax Cuts and Job Act, and 2024, 2025, soon as he got in office, he was able to pass the Big Beautiful Bill. And you seem to be
That's just
under
one
this
piece
thing
of
that
legislation. I gave
women's
you five.
reproductive
I
rights.
gave. Wait,
Excuse
can
me,
you
hold
name
on.
five
Excuse me.
things? Name five policies Trump passed.
He doesn't need five because the bills are 2,000 pages long. He passed the Big
Okay,
Beautiful
so
Bill. He
so
got
are plenty
everything
of
in
the
one bill.
so are plenty of the
He did it
individual
in
bills
one.
passed under the Biden-Harris administration. Like I explained to you, the Bipartisan Infrastructure Bill, the Chips and Science Act, the PACT Act, the Inflation Reduction Act, the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act, the Violence Against Women Act. You understand all of these policies seem like actually made conditions better for people in this country. These are massive pieces of
I disagree.
legislation.
I disagree.
So you got one bill under the Trump administration. You're like, he's so great,
Yeah,
he's so amazing, actually. But then like
yeah,
Biden passed like five bills like that,
absolutely.
and you don't acknowledge it.
I don't think that you need to pass five bills when your bills are thousands of pages long. You only need one. Like
That
why
makes
the
no
fuck
sense.
why do you need to pass 10 bills when your bills are 10,000 pages long? Why would you ever need to do that?
Yeah, because it depends on how many people you'll get to vote for it. Some people will vote for certain legislation, but they won't vote for others. The more policy and the more legislation that you put into each specific bill, the less you're going to be able to get some people that are willing to vote for it. So obviously separating the votes on certain things can make it more likely or less likely that you would be able to have a greater amount of votes for that legislation.
You support slavery.
No, what the
So
fuck?
why is it that I should work and the government should take all of my money? I'm trying to figure this out.
I'm not arguing for the government to take all your money.
Well, when Trump passes tax cuts, which you call it tax cuts, I call it people keeping the money they earned. You seem to have a problem with it. You want all of our money and our labor to turn around and be taken from us and spent on whatever the government decides.
My issue is that his tax policy is disproportionately helping the rich and the wealthy, and it's not helping the average American.
Does
Democrats advocate for
everything
tax cuts. Democrats advocate for tax cuts for working class people, like I already explained to you, whereas Donald Trump's tax policy is disproportionately for the rich and wealthy. I would
does
rather give a tax
everything
break to working class
disproportionately help
people
the
and the
rich
average
and wealthy?
American than I would the rich and wealthy.
Does everything disproportionately help the rich and wealthy?
In terms of Donald Trump's tax policy, yeah.
Does everything that the Democrats do disproportionately help the rich and the wealthy?
No.
For example, when you guys subsidize housing, you do Section 8, that money goes into LLCs and corporations that rent out houses. When you guys
But
subsidize
it also
food
provides
and give out,
housing for people who need it.
excuse me, I wasn't finished. When you guys subsidize food and you do SNAP and WIC and everything else, doesn't all of that money go to corporations. In fact, the people can't even use that money except for at corporations, correct?
So, just because inevitably speaking, there's a trickle up element of the economy that providing goods and services for people in need inevitably will also still help the rich, isn't evidence that our specifically policies that we're advocating for disproportionately help the rich more than it helps the people in need. Inevitably speaking, providing these basic amenities for people in need helps the average person to a greater extent. If it inevitably still helps out the corporations, well, that's the society that we live in. And that actually proves that under our policies, you can still inevitably help out the very rich, and it trickles up to the richest individuals. But under your policy, there's a lack of an actual incentive for it to trickle down because they will, the rich individuals that have the money, right, will do whatever is within their profit maximizing condition, right, which doesn't actually always go down to the workers or help the
You didn't
workers.
answer the question, by the way.
I,
I
I
asked you if it
actually blatantly
disproportionately
did. If
helped the
you'd like
rich
to,
and the wealthy.
how did I not answer it?
Because I asked you if it's a yes or no question. Does it disproportionately help the rich and the wealthy? Are they the ones who get and keep
I
that
said
money?
no. Didn't I say no and then I explained?
You're not explaining it. You're
I
explaining the
said no and
opposite.
then I explained. I'm sorry that you
You're
didn't
saying no and
get what I was
explaining
saying there.
yes. That's the problem. You're saying no and then telling me, oh, well, yeah, it goes to the corporations and then they get to keep it.
No, I'm saying that inevitably speaking, there's a trickle up that also helps out corporations and large businesses on top of providing basic amenities that disproportionately help working class people. So it disproportionately helps the average person and working class people, although it still helps the rich.
Does it
Like,
help the rich more? Do they keep the money
no.
longer? Do they get more incentives for it? So
I
when
think it
you
helps the
go
average person more because it provides basic amenities to them in their life.
and after they use it once, right? The rich people, they go and they put it in stocks and then they get dividends and then they can borrow from those dividends and then they get tax incentives. So it helps them
So
more,
listen to
correct?
this. So under my plan, you have people specifically who get very rich, and then you also have people who have access to their basic amenities. Under your plan, you have people who are super rich, and then you don't have people with services they need. Which one's preferable?
I would say if you would stop taking money from poor people, if you would stop hiking their local taxes, their state taxes, and their federal taxes, they'd probably be able to pay their bills. Most people are who are getting their cars repossessed or evicted or foreclosed on are actually paying more in taxes than they are behind.
Yeah, so you understand that Donald Trump's the one hiking your taxes by imposing tariffs that disproportionately is making
All
people
right,
who are
so
lower
now
middle
we have
income
to
pay
do it.
to a greater
Now,
extent. You
now we have to
understand that
do
the
a civics
Democrats are the
lesson.
only ones. Democrats, for example, like Kamala Harris, only wanted to increase taxes on income over $400,000 a year, which is not
Now,
affecting the average American, which is not affecting affordability in this country.
now we have to do a civics lesson. Who controls the purse?
That would be the House,
Okay, and who passes the bills and the budgets?
the Senate,
Okay, so how is Donald Trump doing anything to that? And he's not a member of the legislative branch of government.
because he inevitably signs the policy into law.
So Donald Trump is responsible for the taxes over the last
Yeah.
100
Do you want me to
years
give
that
you?
we've been
No,
paying more money.
no. Do you want me to give you an example? Like, if the big beautiful bill was passed, if Harris were in office, she wouldn't have signed it into law. Meaning that like the president is a part of the negotiation process because they have to consider what the president would be willing to sign, right? Because otherwise they would have to get the votes necessary to pass the veto, which would be harder
So,
than getting the
so,
president.
so here's the problem. You're making all these excuses for bad policies. All of your policies support corporations
What bad
and big
policies?
government. All of them. All of
Can
your
can you give me a
every single
specific
policy.
policy that you
Every
consider bad?
policy, the Chips and Science Act,
Okay, can you name
the
one
Inflation
provision within?
Reduction Act,
Okay, can you give me one
every
provision within the?
single
Actually, tell
provision,
me, what
every
do you not like
provision.
about the Inflation Reduction Act?
I'm not saying I don't like it. I'm just telling you that what you're saying, we need to give money to the people, and then what you're saying that they passed is just giving money to corporations.
No, I told you that it specifically disproportionately helps working class people and people in need, and then it also inevitably will help the rich.
And that's going to help the rich more, right? The
I just
Chips and
I
Science Act.
how many
The
more
Chips
times
and
do I,
Science
I
Act.
how
Hold on, let's look at
dishonest do
it.
you have to be? I
Let's look at
purposely
it,
have said
Parker.
multiple times that it
Parker,
disproportionately helps the
relax, man.
average American, right? And you keep saying, "Oh, but it helps the rich more." Do you know what disproportionately means?
I do know what it means, and it
Okay, so
seems
can you
like
tell
you
me what
don't because
disproportionately means?
it means that it's affecting one more than the other, and it's affecting the rich. The rich are
Okay,
benefiting much
so then
way disproportionately more,
Leslie, think of the gem gun.
you're not acknowledging it, and I don't
Not
understand why.
not due to the policies we're advocating for, because the funding disproportionately comes from the rich to be able to afford programs for people who are in need that disproportionately helps the lower income individuals, and helping lower income individuals inevitably does still end up in the long run helping out rich people
Does it help
because
them
there's a
out
trickle up
longer?
element in the economy.
Does it help them out longer? Does it help them out more? If I give you two
I,
hundred
I, I,
dollars
I like how
and
many more
and
times do I
I
need to
know
answer
that
the same question? Do you not
you
want to
want to
engage with the points
subsidize
I've mentioned
Walmart,
already?
you want to subsidize Walmart, you want to subsidize the banks, you want to
How dishonest
subsidize
are you?
housing,
You're the one
you want
giving
to
them tax
subsidize
breaks directly.
education, you want to
You are
subsidize
directly giving them
healthcare.
tax breaks.
Tax breaks is their
Yes.
money that they earned. You're
Think of the
talking
bouquet.
about stealing. You're talking about reducing theft.
Donald Trump imposes tariffs, which you're still going to have the same level of taxation. It's just where you're placing the taxation. Instead of
Tariffs are
placing it on the richest
voluntary.
Americans, it's placed on the average American.
Tariffs are voluntary. You
No,
can
they're
just
not.
choose not to send your
Tariffs,
products here, and you can just choose not to buy
so
products
ridiculous. Tracy thinks of
from out
going
of the country.
jellyfish. So the reason why it's not voluntary is because it affects the overall market, increases the costs. So
It's
you
literally
understand.
voluntary.
Listen, let me
Is
explain.
anybody
Let me
forcing you
explain. Can I please
to
explain?
send your products to
Do
the
you
United
need to
States?
buy products?
You
Yeah, you
don't need
do.
to buy foreign products. No,
No. But do you need to buy products in this country? Like,
no,
do you need to consume?
no.
You don't need food. You don't need housing.
Food comes out of the ground.
Yeah, and where do you buy that food from?
You can get it from out of the ground.
Yeah, from other countries and from this
No, you can
country.
get it from
And
the
if you
ground
increase, hey,
underneath your feet.
all right, I'm just gonna mute you
It's,
because you're not able to have a productive conversation without the
you're
mute
just
button.
mad because you're wrong.
I mean, do you want to act like this? I can just, you just left. Okay. I'd actually rather prefer not to talk to you anyway. If you choose to leave, I don't care.